This show is brought to you by HostBaby.com, web hosting for musicians.
Welcome to the endless saga of festivals and fairs. That's right, I believe this is the fourth episode in a row where we cover this important topic of performing, preparing for, promoting outdoor festivals and fairs. This is episode 17 of Music Marketing Monday. Pull up a chair, let's rock.
Information, inspiration, motivation for the modern musicpreneur.
Time to start your week right.
Here it comes, Music Marketing Monday, with your host, Bob Baker,
Mr. Buzz Factor,
and Billy Gryzak.
The Music Marketing Mind.
Ready? Are you sure?
Set.
Here it comes. Swing, baby.
All right, everybody in your chairs now, ready to rock? I guess that means you're in a rocking chair today, I guess. I don't know. Or you could be standing on your feet at the fairs and festivals. This is Billy Gryzak, the Music Marketing Mind, and
I'm Bob Baker, Mr. Buzz Factor. Hello, Billy. And if you sound a little different, we should probably explain that you're actually practicing what you preach on this episode.
That is true, man. I'm actually literally walked off the stage at the National Railroad Museum Fairgrounds, and I walked out to my van, and I'm doing this show actually on my smartphone between shows. I have a half-hour break, so hopefully we'll be able to squeeze in all the information we need to get through today in this fourth and final installment of the wonderful world of performing at fairs and festivals, which I'm doing right now.
Yeah, I love this. I'm picturing you right now, like in a parking lot somewhere, or parked on the grass off the side of the stage or something.
It's really funny. Yeah, I'm actually parked right in front of the grass here with a sign that says "Reserved Parking for Mr. Billy." No joke. I'll post that picture up maybe when we put the show up. I'll make that the picture. That'll be funny.
That will be fun. Yeah, please do that. So cool. So we've covered a lot of ground. We started off talking about the pros and cons of festivals and fairs, and then we talked about booking them. And last week we didn't even get to the performance because we were talking about like preparing for it and promoting it, the day before and at the event. So now I guess we finally are. It's time for the first note to ring out of our set. And you again are the expert at this, obviously. And so let's give people some tips. I know you got limited time there, so you're giving your best stuff about how to make the best of a performance.
Sure. Well, the first thing, like we talked about last week, is to make sure when you're performing to bring some type of crowd with you. Now, there's two ways to do that. I'm just going to back up a little bit just so in case somebody's tuning into this episode first. Either bring your own friends and fans and family to the show so you have a little bit of a crowd that hopefully are going to be very vocal and supportive. That'll help draw people to the stage. Or you walked around the fairgrounds and festivals and handed out either giveaways or raffle tickets or little cards to say what time you're playing, and you've piqued the interest where people are actually showing up and you've got some people to play for, Now, the most important thing that you could do to have a successful fair and festival show, which is also the same thing that happens at any other type of venue. And this, you might say that this is common sense, but you really need to make sure you have your crap together and your show is awesome.
Right, so I guess there's a little preparation that goes. So what are the the successful elements of a killer show?
Right. Well, first of all, successful elements at an outdoor killer show. All right. These are a little bit different things you might not think about. So we'll start with that and then we'll get into the performance. First thing, you have to make sure that you have plenty of water by the stage at all times because you can't have anybody fainting or falling down or being dehydrated. Otherwise, you cannot perform at your peak. Also, some type of electrolyte drink might not be a bad idea as well. Consider wearing hats if possible. or something on your head, because when the sun beats down on your head, that can cause a lot of problems. I've seen lots of entertainers, including my drummer. My daughter was playing drums with me a couple months ago, and she literally passed out in the middle of the show because, she wasn't staying hydrated. So these are important elements to make sure that you are physically able to perform, wearing the appropriate clothing. If you're a metal band and used to wearing a lot of leather and things like that, you might want to consider leather shorts.
Hey, it worked for AC/DC, or
exactly. So these are some things. Now, consider that. Now, one thing we talked about is making sure that your material is appropriate for the audience you're going to play for. Okay. So at fairs and festivals, whether or not you're a badass metal band or biker band or whatever, you still have to consider that you're going to be playing at a volume where people are going to be hearing you all over. And one of two things can happen. If the material is appropriate and if it's sounds really good, the one thing that would happen is it would draw people to the area, okay? Or if it just sounds bad to them or not family friendly, it's going to draw people away, send people away from your area. So these are important things, because at a fair and festival, it's interesting. One of the best ways to have a successful show is for people to hear you, because they're going to hear you a long time before they see you. Think about that for a minute.
Good point.
And they hear you. So a lot of downtime is not good. Too much talking isn't good at a fair and festival because it just comes across as nothing. You know what I mean? The talking gets lost in the shuffle, but the music, the bass drum, the beat can actually attract people. So if your shtick has a lot of interaction and talking, it's fine, but make sure you plan it in such a way that there's still a beat or some music going on, so that you're still constantly attracting people to your stage with the sound of your music, which is usually carried first by the bass drum around the fairgrounds.
Yeah, that's awesome advice. And I think that probably works at regular venue gigs, indoor gigs too, but that's especially outdoors. I would also think if you can get the crowd to respond to you, so people, and creates, from a distance, like, oh, something's going on over there, whether you're actually in the middle of a song or just talking to them and getting them to shout out something,
Right. One thing that draws a lot of people to the stage is right before the show. A lot of times DJs, for instance, that are usually the MCs, they usually have like radio DJs. They'll actually bring out those like T-shirt cannons,
Oh,
and
yeah.
then they'll shoot out, a half dozen, a dozen T-shirts before the show, and the people get really noisy. And the noisier the people get, the more people come. So why leave that to the DJs? Why leave that to the fair? If you have the ability and you don't mind having some type of giveaways, whether they're T-shirts, which is good marketing. I'm not a big believer in giving things away. You know me, I prefer to sell it. But if you don't mind, as a marketing tool, to give away some T-shirts that say, I'm a big fan of this band and it's got the website on the back, and you're, doing the shooting them out or throwing them out the crowd, making that big noise, then you also got 10, 12, 20 people that day walking around with your T-shirts on, that can get people to want to buy more T-shirts because they see people wearing the ones they got for free, you see?
Yeah, cool. And they do that at baseball games, too. They get that big slingshot or whatever. You get, like, 3 people that shoot it up into the crowd, and you get people to make noise, like, which area of the crowd are we going to send this to? Whoever makes the most noise, and then, I don't know.
Right. Now, since you brought that up, here's some tactics you can use to have a really successful live show at a fair and festival. Some of these tactics work just fine in bars, and they work fine in arenas and theaters and stuff too. But this is really the outdoor crazy crowd that you're going to want to shoot for. So one thing I would highly recommend during the show is when you introduce yourself, try to create some type of rapport with the audience immediately. One of the ways you could do that is kind of what you said, the things they do at the baseball games, or like if you've ever been to Medieval Times. Have you ever been to a Medieval Times, Bob?
I have not. I never even heard of it. No.
All right. Medieval Times, they have them in Vegas and Chicago and a bunch of places. They're basically castles where they do medieval games like jousting and all that stuff, and it's a big dinner theater. And so basically you go in, and then you sit in the red section, the blue section, the yellow section, the green section, and each section has their own knight. And you cheer for your knight to win the games, and that's kind of what they do. They're really popular. So what I suggest you do is 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 members of the band divvy up the audience, say, that's my section right there. That's my section. This is my section. And during the show, you're egging each section on to be louder than the other section. Think about that.
That's pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So we do that a lot. Like in our group, we have 2 people in our group, right? And it's funny calling it a group, but in our group, what I do is I play the bass on the guitar and the guitar. I have this technique. It's not important now, but I'm basically doing the role of two people, and then I have my drummer. And then, but we've done it with the 4 or 5 piece bands too. But in our show, basically, we've split the crowd to the middle and say this is the Billy side, and the other side is the Will side. And then we try to, kind of get them against each other to see who's louder, who loves their musician more, that kind of stuff. You know what I mean?
That's cool.
And it's a lot of fun. Yeah. And the louder you get, the more people you get to the show. You know what I'm saying? So these are some things you can do. Another thing that you can do to have a really successful show anywhere, but especially at the fairs and festivals, is encourage the use of the cell phone. Now, I'm really big on smartphones, right, Bob?
You are, indeed.
Yeah. So the first thing I always do at the shows, and it amazes me how many bands get angry when people bring out their cell phones at the show. I've heard some horror stories about different bands that got very angry, famous bands that got angry because people had their cell phones out at the show, But for me, what I do is I start to show up and I say, oh, everybody take out your cell phones. And then they all start getting bummed out because I think I'm going to tell them to turn them off, right? And I say, okay, everybody turn on your phones. And now they're all happy because they love their phones. And I say, now during the show, what I want you to do is I want you to be on Facebook. I want you to be on Twitter. I want you to go on Pinterest and Instagram. And the whole time you're there, take pictures, take videos, put them up wherever you want. Tag me, tag Mr. Billy, tag the event we're at, promote the event, which the promoters love when they hear me saying, post up pictures and say a day out with Thomas, or post up pictures and put hashtag Summerfest. They love me. They bring me back every year because I'm promoting their shows. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you become basically an advertiser, promoter, and sponsor of the show by getting more promotion and advertising for yourself. And then the venue loves you for that. So then what we ask them to do is take all these pictures and tweets and everything and put them up all over the internet during the show. If we're there for multiple days, like we are at this one, this is a 5-day run, we say, tweet people and say, I'm seeing this amazing band here at this festival. We're not going anymore this week, but everybody else should go. Here's some pictures. Think about that. Isn't that awesome?
That is cool. Yeah, it's a smart way to, instead of fighting the digital technology, you use it to your advantage because people are, going to, instead of having their noses buried and checking their Facebook status or whatever, or their update, they're actually doing something engaging with you further and spreading the message to people who aren't even present at that show.
Exactly. Yeah. Now, there's a couple of other really cool things using technology you can do. It is difficult to get a lot of people on a mailing list when you're at a big festival and show, especially if you got a really big crowd. So one thing that I do at all my fair and festival shows, well, actually all my shows, is we have signage up that basically has my cell phone number, my real cell phone number, which is, because I'm fearless, I don't care, I'll tell everybody, it's 920-309-1132.
Talk about being an open book, man.
Yeah, that's my personal cell phone number, 920-309-1132. Why I'm giving you this number right now is because if you want to take some cool pictures, and send them to us, that's cool. If you have some comments, you can text them to me. I might be kind of upset if you call me at 1 a.m, but I try to turn my cell phone off that time, so it's cool. But anyway, what we do is we put that phone number up on the stage alongside our social media icons, and we encourage people to text us during the show their pictures and their comments and or requests. And if you really want to get the audience in there and you've got songs that they really love and you've got, a whole bunch of people say, play, that song, then you can say, okay, man, we're going to check out the phone and go, Bob and Susie, and where are you over there? They all want to hear this song, and you recognize them. And then you play the song. And in some cases, take it a little further, I'll say, okay, we're going to mention some people. Everybody got your video cameras. Think about this. And you say, all right. And with the video camera, you say, Bob, where are you, Bob? And people are like videoing themselves, me talking to Bob from the stage. Anything that gets them excited about the show. And this technology can take you so far. And here's a really fun one. Here's a great contest you can do. If you want to have like a giveaway raffle kind of thing at the show, you can pick a winner, however you want to, of tickets or tweeting or whatever. And the winner, you tell them, the winner gets a custom voicemail message from the band. And then after the show, you have them come over and see you, and you grab their phone, you go, hey, this is Mr. Billy. Bob's not in right now. And you can give them a free voicemail free voicemail message they can use on their phone from their favorite band.
Or how about a free ringtone? Hey, pick up the damn phone.
Exactly. Anything you want. But I mean, think about that. That costs you nothing. And those people are going to love you forever because I got a personal ringtone or a message from my favorite singer. You know, it's so easy to win fans over. I just don't know why more people don't do it. Now, at the show, especially fairs and festivals. Now, this is a biggie for you original bands out there. You love your originals. You want to play your originals. You want to be rock stars. I get it. No problem. But the best way to gather people around and get them interested in the band is to play some familiar material. That is a given. So even if you do an all original show, consider dropping in about 2 or 3 songs at the like 1 or 2 at the beginning, or maybe 1 or 2 in the beginning, 1 in the middle, and 1 in the end, or 1 in the beginning, 1 in the middle, 1 in the end, that are very recognizable and mean a lot to the type of people that you attract. Okay.
You can do them in your style too. You don't have to.
Well, that's the whole thing. Yeah, it doesn't have to be. Yeah, like a perfect example is the Scorpions covered "Tainted Love" by Soft Cell, and when they do it, it sounds like the Scorpions. I mean, it's real heavy. It's not like ding, 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 ding. It's like dong, 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 you know.
Right.
And so find a couple of tunes that your crowd really digs. And throw them into your live show as a way to get more people to say, man, I love that song. Let's go check out this band. You know what I mean? And then if it's the same style of music you play or it appeals to that crowd, they're automatically going to be predisposed to love what you do.
That is awesome advice, man. You are just a fountain of useful information.
And then last but not least, if you want them to buy stuff, especially T-shirts and hats and things like that, wear them. I know a lot of people, I just posted up a tweet the other day, and if anybody wants to comment on this at our hashtag music, it's music MM, right? Is that what it is?
Yes, music, MM is the hashtag.
Yeah, so hashtag music MM. I'd like to hear your opinions on this. Why is it that when I tell people or suggest to people that if they have T-shirts to sell or hats to sell or any other type of wearable accoutrements, they say, no, I'm not going to wear that up on stage. That's like not cool or not hip or whatever. I don't get it, because if you're too embarrassed to wear your own clothes, why should anybody else want to?
Right. And I think we've talked about this before, and I've addressed it in a live music marketing workshop that I've given over the months. But another option, though, is you can like those giveaways we talked about earlier, like you could give away something and have somebody actually, they don't have to put it on stage, but they can ask them to wear it or parade it, or if somebody's wearing a T-shirt, bring them up on stage. But some way of showing people wearing it, if for whatever reason you don't want to wear it yourself because it just seems like it's too, I don't know. I can see where somebody would be sensitive, but you're right. You should get over that.
I don't. I really don't. I don't understand the sensitivity thing, because in my opinion, man, if you can't blow your own horn, if you can't, get out there and brag about yourself, how can you expect anybody else to? Because, your fans, your followers, they're going to follow your lead. And if you're that type of person, that doesn't want to promote yourself, why should you ask other people to promote you? I just don't get it.
Right.
So again, if somebody wants to explain it to me, I'm all ears. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. But I mean, your whole band doesn't have to go up and be like, the band catalog. You don't have to be like a bunch of, JCPenney posers up there. But I mean, one of your guys could wear a hat. One of your guys could wear a shirt. I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Right, especially if the T-shirt has a slogan on it. I think we've talked about this before, where to me, some of the best merch is when you have a line from a song or something that expresses an attitude or a lifestyle, and that's the real reason that people want to purchase it, because it reflects who they are, more so than just sporting your band name. But if it has a slogan like that, instead of just having your own name on your own shirt, I can see that I can see a lot of people feeling more comfortable about that. So I guess it all depends on the merch and the person.
Right. This is true. Another thing we used to do that's kind of interesting, not doing it now with the current band, but in the past, we used to invite like 5 or 6 people up on stage, and we would have like a more cowbell contest, or, and have them all beat cowbell to a song. And the stipulation was if they came up on stage and played, they got a free T-shirt, but they had to put it on on stage. And then they stood up there for like 5 minutes banging those cowbells with everybody taking pictures and hooping it up. And I got like zillions of pictures of like a dozen people on stage wearing my T-shirts, and that just led to cha-ching, more sales. You know what I mean? So,
and also you could do this, and it's again your comfort level, but you can announce a couple of times throughout your set that you're at the end, or near the end of your set, you're going to be doing a more cowbell. You're going to invite 5 people up, but make the stipulation that they got to be wearing one of your shirts, and mention where they can get them during the set. You know, they purchase this. The first 5 people that buy a T-shirt get to come up on stage for the more cowbell song or whatever. You know. All
right, Bob, you just won. That's better than my idea. Good job, man. Good job.
I mean, you can still give them away too, but you know.
Yeah. No, see, I don't like giving stuff away unless there's a darn good reason. But I like that. That's a really good one. Okay, now a couple of other things too to make sure that your shows are really successful. These sound like common sense things, but please don't assume anything. When you get up on stage, make sure your instruments are tuned before the show. Make sure you have a spare guitar, a spare bass, spare snare drum, spare bass drum pedal. Always. Because you only get, your 15 minutes of setup, half hour, 10 minutes, whatever it is, and you get your slot, and they will pull you off the stage. They'll unplug you if you run over. So you got to make sure that you have, you can keep going no matter what happens. And most importantly, and this is probably the biggest advice I'm going to give of the day, don't assume you're going to be able to hear anything on stage. All right? Monitors suck. Monitors always stink. You're not going to hear anything. In fact, you might not hear your guitars. You might not hear the drums. Make sure your band is rehearsed enough that no matter how bad the situation is, you know your parts and you know what to do. And you look like you're having the time of your life.
That's key.
Because nobody wants to see somebody bitching about the monitors, fighting with the sound man, saying derogatory things, fighting with each other, making faces, walking away, storming off the stage. I've seen all these things, by the way. I've been in bands that have done these things. You know what I'm saying? And you got to remember, most iconic times you've seen bands in your life, like, say, the Beatles on Ed Sullivan Show, right?
Mm-hmm.
Those guys did not use their own equipment. They didn't have their own PA system. They probably couldn't hear anything. And that was the performance of a lifetime, of a generation. And they looked awesome. And if you go back and you ever talk to those guys, they'll tell you how awful it was. But you didn't know that. So remember what your idols do, the professionals do. You can't hear nothing. You don't know what's going on. It doesn't mean anything. You still got to go out there and put on the show of your life.
Yeah,
no matter how bad the sound is.
I was almost going to ask you, and I guess you kind of answered it there. What happens when things aren't going well, or when the audience doesn't show up, or it's not the ideal situation? But I guess that's you pretty much answered it there. When the audience doesn't show up, there's a few things you can do. Now remember this, and this is something else. Preparing for next year's show. All right. So because we're not going to go to episode 5, so I better get to this. Right.
What you want to do is, even if there's no one there, make sure that you have a couple of friends, wives, whatever. I mean, I'm sure like each person will have more than one wife, but everybody bring their own wives. And
girlfriends and wives.
Exactly. Wives and girlfriends. That's really good there, Bob. Good advice. Yeah, bring your wife and your girlfriend. All right. So anyway, bring everybody. Make sure they have cameras, smartphones, video, and take lots and lots of video of you on stage. Here's the trick. If there's not a lot of people in the audience, do not take the shots from the back of the room where you see all the empty seats.
Yeah.
Because when you're taking pictures right up at the front of the stage, it's just assumed you're playing to 10,000 people. Think about it.
Right.
So all these pictures that look like they're being taken from the front row of a concert, even if there's only 5 people there, it looks awesome. And then when you post up those pictures of you playing at Summerfest, and it looks like you're on this big stage, and it looks like the band's happy and you're jamming, and you post up things like, really wished you were here this year. It was awesome. Summerfest drew 10,000 people that day. Well, nobody came to saw us, but that's not the point. And we're going to be there next year. Hope you can make it. Look how much fun this was. And then next year, you start feeding those pictures again a month before the show, 2 weeks before the show, a couple days before the show, to remind people, look at this awesome stage. Look how great we are. And I've seen bands, one of mine in particular, that went from having 10 people to like 250 people the following year, which might not sound like a lot, but that's a lot of people, man,
It is.
To see the band. because we showed them how much fun we had the year before instead of us all punching each other and scowling because nobody was there, So these are things to remember. So you can prime the pump for next year by taking the right kinds of pictures and the right, promotion the year you're there. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and that's where cropping your photos comes in handy. So if there's big, huge, a patch of grass shown where there are not people standing, you can cleverly pick the right photo angle or just crop things out, and you don't have to make up lies about it. But you show that you're active and that you played this great game.
I mean, you were there. We had a great time. Look at this big stage. Boy, it was so much fun. I wish you were there. Make sure you come next year and bring 100 of your closest friends.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, that's what you got to do. I mean, that's how these people draw crowds. Look, there's the reality. Okay, I used to read these books. I can't remember who it was now. But there's this thing, and Bob, you have to help me because I know you've probably read this. There's these things called the what's it called? The outside perception and the inside reality. Does that ring a bell?
Kind of, sort of, but go ahead and color that in a little bit more. Yeah.
And actually, I do remember it's Y2 Marketing, I think, was the company that had this book out. And it was basically, there's the way that everybody thinks things are from the outside, the people outside looking at you, right?
Right.
So that's your outside perception. That's the perception people have of what's going on. Then there's your inside reality, and that's what you deal with day to day. The drummers, not feeling good, you can't find the bass player, the tire blew up in the van, but you showed up, and then when you were awesome, everybody says, this band's great, nothing bad ever happens to them, they're the greatest. You see what I'm saying?
Right, it's just like celebrities, and people think that they live luxurious lives all the times when they have to, fix the car and work out and do all the kind of stuff that every normal people do.
Well, the Red Hot Chili Peppers used to talk about how, at the top of their career, they go and play a stadium, and then they drive down to the Motel 6 and sleep because they couldn't afford, a really nice motel room. Just because, the band looks successful doesn't necessarily mean that inside you're killing yet. So it's important to always make sure you're putting your best foot forward at your performances and when you deal with fans. In fact, I'll give you a perfect example. On the way to the phone to do this to our show, a gentleman wanted to stop me to tell me how awesome our band was and how great my son, the drummer, was. And he wanted to talk for a while. And I didn't want to be rude and say, dude, I got to go. I got to be on my podcast in like 30 seconds. But you know what I was doing? I was smiling. I was shaking hands. I was telling him about my CDs we have for sale, asking him if he'd like to come to the next show and, and smiling and good to meet you. Here's my son. You can talk to him. And I ran out here and called you because it would have been very rude to say, sorry, man, can't talk to you right now. You know what I mean? So you guys got to treat every moment, every fan with respect, and it's just as important as the show you put on. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's awesome advice. And I know you have to go because you have another set you have to play here pretty quick. So anything you want to plug or say before we wrap this one up?
Really, I don't have a lot to talk about this week. So, Bob, I'm going to let you tell people about, well, first of all, you can find me at Music Market Mind on Twitter. And you can visit me at www.musicmarketingmind.com, okay? You already have my cell phone number, so I can't wait to see what kind of pictures and texts I get.
Yeah, really.
And, Bob, tell us about your incredible movement that you've got going on, and then I've got to run, okay?
Yeah, I'm just going to make it real quick, but my whole focus up until early July of 2014 is this fan funding campaign that I've got going on for a new book I'm working on called The Empowered Artist, and every day for 30 days I'm posting a new video called 30 Ways to become an empowered artist, and it's for musicians, it's for visual artists, for writers, for really creative people of all kinds. I'm not going to go into any of all the details, but this is a movement to really inspire and empower creative people around the world. And so if you want to support that and find out how to get your name in the book or earn a bunch of different perks at different levels, just go to thebuzzfactor.com and look in the right-hand corner of right-hand column about every page, and you'll see a purple little logo there about it, and just click that and you can learn more about it. But I would really love you and appreciate your support, and it ends July 2nd. So there you go, Billy. Thanks for making the time in between sets to call and record this.
No problem. And I'm just going to throw something at you, Bob. Next week, you feel like talking about Twitter?
We could do that. Sure.
Yeah. So I got a little tease for everybody. I tried an experiment for the last 60 days, and in 60 days I went from 300 Twitter followers, and I've got 1,220 right now in 60 days.
Wow. I wonder how you did that.
Yeah, so I'd like to, maybe give some people some thoughts on that. And I know you know a lot about it, because how many Twitter followers do you have, Mr. Baker?
I've got over 14,000 now.
Yeah, you win again. You're the winner. You're the big winner today, Bob. Okay, and everybody else, be a big winner. Support Bob in his endeavor here to get this book and this movement started. This is Billy Gryzak, the Music Marketing Mind,
and I'm Bob Baker. Saying thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll be back again next week on Music Marketing Monday.
Off to the festival! Whee!
Woohoo!
Are you still there? Excellent! Now would be a good time to visit hostbaby.com for your free 30-day trial. Of course.